block today to warm up those legs and those feet and do little stretches. I think you can see there we go. Change that angle of that screen a little bit for you guys. So I'm going to set my yoga block far enough away from the chair, but close enough so that I don't have to lean my body forward to have my fingers on the top of my chair. And I've got the balls and toes of my feet on that block. And I want you to bring your feet together and your heels together. And so then kind of from the middle of my arch to my heel is off the back of the block. So nice and tall. And I just want you to find that point where your heels aren't lower than the block or aren't higher than the block. There's a little bit of activity in your feet with that. And we're just going to do some breathing there. I want you to take a nice deep inhale. Try and fill that chest up. Think of sending breath in front of your heart behind your sternum. It kind of lifts your chest. And then exhale. I just want you to feel how your rib cage just kind of melts down towards your pelvis. Try to just keep your feet active so that those heels stay right at the level of the balls of your feet, but they're out there in space. A few more breaths. And I just have my hands gently resting on the chair. Nice deep exhale. Nice deep inhale. Nice deep exhale. Now we're going to add foot movement. So with the inhale, I want you to bring your heels up. Come up on your tippy toes and pause there. Keep your heels together and feel your sits bones draw together and your glutes and your hamstrings and your inner thighs and your pelvic floor are all on, keeping you lifted. And then we're going to exhale as we come down. Inhale as you go up. Again, sending that breath behind your heart in front of your sternum, getting nice and tall. And I'm going slow on purpose. Exhale as you come down, just so your heels are level with the block. Inhale as you go up and hold. There's a little balance involved. You've got to keep all those muscles active. Exhale as you slowly lower. So that exhale helps keep that pelvic floor a little activated. Inhale as you go up. Exhale as you lower. Inhale as you go up. We're going to do one more slow like that, and then we're going to go a little faster. Feet still together. Try not to let those ankles and heels come apart as you come up. Good. And now we're going to do 10 a little faster. Up and down, just to that level. And up, that's 2, and down. And 3, and down. And 4, my feet are starting to feel it. And 5, and 6, and my calves, and my glutes, and my hamstrings. 8, 9, good, 10. Nice. Now, I want you to bring your toes apart. My heels are still lifted, so I'm coming into Pilates V. So my 4th and 5th toe are kind of hanging off the outside edge of the block. My heels are together, and I'm up on the balls and toes of my feet. So I've got my heels lifted. That's where my inhale is. I'm going to exhale and lower my heels just to the level of the block. And inhale up and exhale down. We're going to do 10 slow. And inhale up and pause there. And exhale nice and slow, just to heels are level of the block. And inhale and hold. I want you to feel that wrap around your hips. All my muscles are burning in my lower extremities a little bit. We're going to do 5 more slow. 5 and hold and lower. And 4 and hold and lower. And 3, I guess that 4 is 3, I lost my count. And hold. I saw a t-shirt yesterday. There's Pilates instructors who count and then those that don't. I might have to get that t-shirt. 2, we're going to do 1 more slow and then we're going to do 10 fast. The last one slow. Hold that for a second. And now we're going to go lower and lift for 1, lower and lift for 2 and 3. I've just got my fingertips resting on the chair. I'm trying not to put weight on my arms. My weight is back over my legs. And I think we've got about 4 more left. And 3, whoo, and 2, and 1. Ah. Now we're going to go into a stretch. Stand Pilates V. You're going to let those heels go lower than the block and feel that nice stretch to your calves. And we're just going to do that a few times. Lift, and we're going to focus on the lower this time. And hold that lower for that nice stretch in your calves. I'm still in that small Pilates V. And lift and lower. Good. And then bring your feet back to parallel. Now I've got my feet apart. So they're parallel, heels in line with my sits bones. And we're going to go into running here. So I'm going to bend one knee, other heel's going to lower. And then I'm going to meet in the middle where they're both at the same height and they're both active, and then I'm going to lower the other. So don't skip that, finding that activation right in the middle of that movement. And then try that heel that's lowering, try and keep that glute and hamstring on. And I'm going to go a little faster. And you're trying not to shift your pelvis up to your rib cage. So you're trying to keep your waist open on both sides. Try not to let your pelvis shift up towards your rib cage, keeping it perfectly level. Like if your pelvis were a bowl holding water, the water would pretty much stay nice and level. That's the image I want you to try and create in your brain, inside your body. And we're going to do a few more breaths for probably about 10 or 15 more movements of our feet. Nice deep inhale and exhale and inhale and exhale. Nice deep inhale. I've got like 6 movements to my feet through my inhale, or 8, and then nice deep exhale. One more time. Nice deep inhale. Nice and active legs, lifted core. And exhale. And now we're going to quiet those feet and just go into a stretch. So I'm just in parallel. I'm letting my feet are slightly apart. I'm letting those heels lower down and finding that nice stretch. And then I'm going to lift, but I'm really just focusing on the stretch. Nice deep stretch to those calves. And lift and lower. Good. And lift and lower. We'll do one more stretch. And lift and lower. Good. And then you can step off your block. We're going to do a standing cat stretch. I like to pretend my chair is like the push-through bar on the reformer. We won't be standing on the yoga block. And I'm going to just walk my feet back and try and make an L shape with my body. So I'm going to send my pelvis back, kind of fold my body into that L shape. I've got my knees slightly bent. If your hamstrings are tight, you can bend them a little bit more, but I want you to try and find a hamstring stretch, but don't lock into your knees. And breathe into that stretch. Breathe into the back of your rib cage. Exhale. You should find a little more length through your spine with the exhale. 2 more breaths. And I'm kind of pushing my hands down into the top of the chair. I'm keeping the top of my ribs connected so that I don't sway into my low back. It actually helps me find more length in my spine. One more breath here. Nice 2-way stretch. And then I'm just going to let my hands fall towards the ground, but I'm still in that L shape, and I'm just going to circle my arms in both directions. So I'm going to circle, and I've got a nice soft bend in my knees here. And so I'm just kind of letting those shoulders go, and then I'm going to circle both arms in the opposite direction. Just like your arms are wet noodles hanging off the back of your body, right? Head in line with the spine. And then I'm going to quiet my arms. I'm going to tuck my tail and roll all the way to a standing position. And now, if you have weights, we're going to do, and you're going to need your chair. Let's see, do I want to have weights? It's optional if you want to have one weight in one hand, but we're going to use the chair for support. So I'm going to bring the chair back here. And what I'm going to do is I'm standing on the right side of my chair. It might be reversed for what you're seeing in the screen. I'm going to take my hand closest to the chair and put it on the seated part of the chair. I'm going to bend my legs a little bit. And we're going to do an opposite arm and leg reach. So you don't have to have a weight in this free hand. So I'm going to slide my leg back. My toes are still on the floor. Slide my arm forward, and then I'm going to try and square my body off. Once I get my body squared, I'm going to lift that back leg. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend my standing leg. And then I'm going to straighten my standing leg. I'm going to bend my standing leg and straighten my standing leg. Now I'm going to add a movement to this with the opposite arm and leg. So as I bend my standing knee, I'm going to bend my arm in and bend my back leg that's free, and then I'm going to reach out, straighten my standing leg, straighten my other two appendages. Bend, little bend off, and then on. And I'm trying not to support too much of my weight with that hand that's on the chair. But you have to have some support to keep those shoulders square. If you're strong enough to do this without your hand on the chair, well, kudos to you. It would be really hard to stay square. So everything bends, standing leg, free arm, and then reaching out. Head just stays in line with the spine as best you can. That standing leg is really going to work. You're going to feel those muscles all the way up to your glutes, right through your hamstring. All those hip stabilizers have to work. And last one. So when I bend that free leg, I'm really kind of pulling my heel towards my sit bone. And then I'm reaching back out. Good. Woo. And we're going to do that on the other side. Shake that. Let's do a little transition. Let's do a little figure four to stretch that hip out on that standing leg. So I'm going to just come behind my chair and do a little seated figure four stretch to stretch that hip. Ah, that feels good. Breathe into that. You can come on and off of that. We'll just go into that stretch one more time. I like this exercise because there's a lot of balance involved, strength involved, proprioception involved of where your body is in space. Now we're going to do the other side. So I'm just going to come to the other side of my chair. I think everybody can see me. I'm going to slide this forward just a little bit. Hey, and so now my free hand, which right now is my right hand, is on the chair. And I've got a soft bend in my standing leg. I'm going to reach my arm forward. You don't have to have a weight, leg back. Once I square my shoulders and pelvis off as best I can, I'm going to lift that back leg. And then I'm just going to keep it lifted and do a few bends in that standing leg. Woo! Just to kind of get myself organized and square. Once I find that, then I'm going to add, when I bend my standing leg, I'm going to pull my heel towards my pelvis and my elbow towards my body. And then I'm going to reach those opposite arm and leg away from each other. So everything bends, everything straightens. Don't lock your standing knee though. It's not going to straighten all the way. Try not to have too much weight on that stabilizing arm on the chair, but you've got to have some to square those shoulders so they're level. We're going to do a few more. Think of pulling your heel towards your glute and then reaching it away and opening that back knee. So that's kind of a hip extension. And we get a little hamstring pull. 3 more. A little harder for me on this side. 2. Good, and last one. And then we're going to come back down. We're going to stretch now that I was using my left leg was my standing leg. So I'm going to come back into that standing figure 4 stretch. I'm going to cross my left leg over my right. And my spine is staying neutral. It's like I'm just kind of sitting in a seated position, finding that nice stretch through that hip. And then I'm going to stand up out of that, go back into that. I like to exhale into the stretch and inhale off the stretch. And exhale into the stretch. And inhale off the stretch. Good. And then we're going to come down to the floor. So grab your weights and your yoga block. And we're going to come down to your mat. And I'm going to change the angle of my screen. Everybody doing okay? Thumbs up if you're doing okay. I'm going to take a peek at everybody. Yep. Good. All righty. So, laying on your back. And I don't want anything under your head for right now because we're going to do some bridges. And you're going to lay on your back. You're going to put that yoga block the long way in between your inner thighs. And I want it kind of close, like it's pressing, just barely touching your pubic bone. So then it's not pressing between your knees. It's following that whole length of that inner thigh, those adductors. And the reason for the block there, so I don't want you to squeeze it really hard. I want you to hold it. And what that helps with, it helps to square your pelvis off. So I like to live way over kind of on my left pelvis, and it likes to shift up towards my rib cage. So I have to think of creating a little more length on my left side and then equal weight on each side of the back of my pelvis into my mat. So everybody's body is different, right? You try and square your pelvis off as best you can. And I've got that little space under my lumbar spine, but the bottom of my rib cage is connected into the mat. Right, and my neck is just neutral. And today it's more neutral without any support than usual, which is kind of a good thing. Okay, so we're going to do just a little bit of pelvic tilting here. And I want you to drive this tilt from, I'm pressing my heels in, and I feel my glutes and hamstrings work a little bit, but not too much, and my core works a little bit, but not too much. And then I'm going to just come forward just to that neutral. So I want a nice exhale as you go back. There's not a lot of effort here. I feel my glutes and hamstrings and my inner thighs just a little bit. And I'm just going back to neutral. I'm not tipping forward. Exhale as you go back. Inhale back to neutral. And I want you to think with that tilt back and that nice exhalation that you're getting your spine longer and your tail is kind of curling up towards you, that yoga block. And then just back to neutral. So you shouldn't have a lot of pressure of your lumbar spine into the mat. It should feel more like length than anything else. We're just going to do a couple more before we take it into a bridge. Having that yoga block helps me connect into my pelvic floor a little easier in that low core. Because just holding that block, I'm not squeezing it hard, it just makes that little bit of difference. It makes it easier to really find a nice pure tilt. Good, and then we're gonna tilt back and we're gonna roll up one vertebra at a time. Till you're right at the bottom of your shoulder blades. And then check in with your body. Make sure your back, you're not up here and have your back arched. I want those ribs to be kind of right in that bowl of your pelvis. And then we're going to melt ourselves down. So think of melting each rib into the floor, then each lumbar vertebra into the floor, one at a time. You have to go slow to do that, and then back to that neutral pelvis. Inhale, exhale, tilting back, nice and gentle tilt back, rolling up one vertebra at a time. Pausing at the top, taking an inhale. Exhale, feel those ribs connect. I like to take my hands and just kind of cup the bottom of my rib cage and then think of all that melting down. And you're kind of using your core to articulate through that spine, back to neutral. We're going to do one more. Inhale, exhale, tilt and roll up. So here I am squeezing that block. I'm holding it, but I'm not squeezing it too hard. And I feel it more towards my pubic bone than towards my knees. And then I'm going to melt myself back down. Nice. And now we're going to take that block out from between your legs. And I want you to put that block in your right hand. I've got it the long way, this way. You could have it the short way too. It probably wouldn't matter, but we're gonna do a little bit of, actually I like it the short way better. Put it the short way, and you're gonna bring your right leg into tabletop, and that right arm is holding the block, and you're pushing the block into your leg, and your leg into the block a little bit. I could even have it flat. That allows me to straighten my right arm. I actually like it. I like it flat and vertical the best. I like it like this, because then I get the best connection. So you're going to hold that connection, float your other leg up into tabletop, and float your left arm up towards the ceiling. So we're going to do some unilateral stabilization. So you're going to reach that left leg and left arm away from each other, only as far as your back doesn't arch off the floor and your belly doesn't pooch out. And then you're going to pull back in. So we're staying connected on the right side of our body, and we're challenging the stability of the left side of our body with those two levers. Only let that arm and leg go out away from each other as far as you can keep that core connected and not let that spine arch away from the floor. So I'm keeping the bottom of those ribs. Each time I reach away, I'm exhaling. We're just going to do 2 more. That warmed me up. My glasses are fogging. Pilates shower, as they call it. If you're working really deep in that stabilization, your body warms up really fast. And then left leg and left arm are to go down. I'm going to bring the other leg down, and we're going to do just a little knee sway. You can just lay your block on your belly. And I just want you to sway your knees like you're going to rock from one side of your pelvis to the other, just really gently. It's not a big range of motion, just to release that core a little bit. Get a little rotation through that lumbar spine. And then we're going to do that on the other side. So now I've got my left hand, my left leg pressing in, finding that connection, right? When I do that little tug of war, I feel that whole left side of my body turn on. Shoulder away from the ear, shoulder blade connected down the back, bringing right leg into tabletop, floating right arm up. And then we're going to exhale as we reach right leg and right arm away from each other. Inhale as we come back in. Almost like you're going to try and imprint from that rib cage to that pelvis on that side of the body when your leg and arm are moving away from each other. And you're still doing a tug of war on the other side of your body, right? Your arm and your leg are connected into that yoga block. All stabilization work. Good. We're going to do 4 more. 3 and 2 and 1. Good. And then leg comes down. We're just going to lay that block on our belly again. Arms can go out to the side a little bit. My palms are up towards the ceiling, and I'm just going to do that little knee sway and rock on my pelvis from side to side just to release that core a little bit. Good. And you're just going to leave that block lay on your belly. I'm actually going to put it lengthwise, and we're going to do a few breaths here. So I want you to inhale, and you're going to let your belly raise that block up with your inhale. And then as you exhale, I want you to think like you're going to pull that block into your spine without imprinting your spine into the floor. And feel that core activate. Inhale. Your belly lifts that block. Exhale. Because your core activates, that block just sinks level right into your torso. Inhale. We'll do a few more. If you want the weight of your hands on there to give you a little more tactile feedback, you can. That helps me find a little deeper connection. What I like about this is the block goes right from the top of your core, like kind of right where the bottom of your ribs are. That's where your diaphragm is, to just above your pubic bone where your pelvic floor is. Let's do one more breath. Inhale, my glasses are still fogged. And exhale. Good. Now you're going to just leave that block there. And it might slide up a little bit. We're going to bring both legs into tabletop. And then both arms are going to float up towards the ceiling. So now I'm in that dead bug position. My ankles are flexed. I'm reaching through my heels. I've got my sacrum and tailbone nice and planted. My spine is neutral. And I've got to pull my belly away from that block a little bit to stabilize my spine. Now I'm going to reach opposite arm and leg away from each other. And then pull that back into my starting position. And then the other side. So I've got right leg, left arm reaching away, pulling back in, and then right arm, left leg reaching away, pulling back in. I exhale as they go out, inhale as they come in. As you exhale, feel like you're going to pull that block into your torso. Feel that belly flatten out to protect that spine. Work in a range of motion that challenges you, but allows you to keep your spine stable. And maybe that can be a really small range of motion. It can be just a few inches out and back in. Listen to your body. One more time on each side. And yes, your hip flexors get to work too. But the more you use your core, the less those hip flexors will burn. Good. And then one leg down, the other leg down, arms out to the side. Now we're going to work into a full knee sway. So feet together, knees together. We're going to sway the knees to the right. My feet are stacked. So my left foot actually comes off the floor and stays glued to my right foot. And I'm going to inhale into my side body, side rib cage, and then exhale. All those lateral muscles are going to pull me back to center. Inhale, I'm going to go the other way. Your block shouldn't fall off your torso. If it is, you're rotating too far. Think about that top leg reaching long over the other. You'll get a bigger stretch through the side body. But work in a range of motion that feels comfortable for you. We're going to do one more to each side. Last one. Back to center. Now you're going to take that block and put it this long way, and we're going to put it in between our inner thighs. So my feet are going to be a little further apart. They're going to be kind of in a wide external rotation. And I want that block about halfway between your knees and your pelvis. And this is really good for your SI joint. So we've got that block the long way, and we're just going to give it a nice squeeze, right? And don't tilt your pelvis back or forward. Keep that neutral pelvis. Nice squeeze of that block, and then release. And squeeze and release. And what this does is it kind of opens up that SI joint, right? Your pelvis kind of folds forward a little bit. You're pushing your legs a little bit more towards the internal rotation, and then you're relaxing them with that little bit of external rotation. Pelvis stays neutral through the whole thing. You shouldn't feel your lumbar spine imprint into the floor at all. And then check and make sure you're using each leg equally. My left leg likes to work a little more than my right. And that makes sense in my body because my right SI joint is got some arthritis in it. It doesn't like to move as easily. is actually a little physical therapy trick with the block. Good, one more time. Beautiful. Then take the block again, put it the long way, and between your inner thighs again, we're going to just do a few more bridges. And now my sacrum feels more open. I don't know if you can feel that in your body, but I'm going to probably get a little bit better movement through my lumbar spine. So we're going to go through a full range of our pelvis. So I want you to tilt your pelvis forward towards your tailbones. You get a little arch in your back. That's an anterior tilt. Then you're going to tilt it back through neutral into a posterior tilt. You're going to roll all the way up. All right, once you're in your bridge, I want your fingertips to reach towards the ceiling. We're going to stay in this bridge, and you're going to open your arms and close your arms. And I've got a slight bend in my elbows. So it's a little more like hug a tree. Not a big bend. Each time I hug, I'm exhaling with a hug. I'm inhaling as I open, but I'm trying not to let those ribs flare out. That's a challenge. One more time. Fingertips are going to reach back up to the ceiling. Now I want you to float your arms up above your head, only as far as they just naturally go. Don't push them. And then we're going to articulate down through that spine. Your arms might come with you a little bit, and then arms are going to come back all the way down to the floor. We're going to do that one more time, and we're going to bridge up. So tilt forward, tilt back, roll up. Pause, find the best bridge you can find. Arms are going to go above your shoulders. Right now, this time we're going to stay there, and you're going to scissor your arms. One arm will come to one side, the other arm will reach over your head, and then you're going to switch. And your job is to try not to let your pelvis shift. We're in that bridge, and we're scissoring those arms. And my arm that comes to the side, I really don't let it go below my pelvis, because then my shoulder rolls forward. If you can stay open across your collarbone and do that, that's fine. But that would be pretty challenging. Just one more scissor. And then both arms are going to reach over your head, and we're going to roll down. One vertebra at a time, and then arms come down to your side. Good. I'm going to have you take this block now, and you're going to put it underneath your feet. So I got my legs together, my feet are glued together, and my heels are pressing into the kind of the middle of the block. I've got my ankles flexed, so my toes are reaching up at an angle. And we're going to do a little bit of bridging here, a little bit more hamstring and glute work. So you're going to push into the block and come up into a bridge, and then you're going to just tap your pelvis down. So we're staying in a neutral spine, up and down, inner thighs glued together, and up and down. Good, and up. If you want to add some arm movement, as the pelvis comes up, your arms can reach up, and then they can come down, or you can leave your arms here, and then that's a little bit more of a stability challenge. Up to you. And I'm digging those heels in, finding those glutes and hamstrings. We're going to do about 5 or 6 more. 5. Well, I should call that 6. 5. Good. 4. 3. 2. And 1. Good. Pelvis comes down, arms come down. Reach your legs long. They're now laying on top of that. The back of my knees are kind of on top of that yoga block. And I'm going to curl up. I'm going to reach one leg long and just do a nice hamstring stretch here. So I'm reaching through my heel. I'm trying to keep the back of that knee open. You can keep your head down if you want. I just find it a little easier to curl up. And you can do a little point and flex of that foot, little circle of that ankle, both directions. And then we'll do a hamstring stretch on that other side. If it feels more comfortable for you to keep your other leg bent, you can do that. Because this is just about stretching our hamstring. And it's a little more of a passive stretch. I'm kind of pushing my leg into my hands a little bit and really reach through that heel to find that stretch. You're going to feel a stretch in your calf too. So point and flex, circling that ankle in one direction, a few times, other direction a few times. All right. So we're just gonna do, if you have weights handy, grab your weights. I'm just gonna push my block away and put my feet on the floor. You don't have to have weights for this. And we're just gonna do a little shoulder protraction and retraction. So my hands are a little wider than my shoulders. My neck and head, top of my shoulders are relaxed. And I'm going to reach my fingertips up towards the ceiling. If you have weights, I'm kind of working against that weight. And inhale into the back of that rib cage. Exhale, retract those shoulder blades. And I want you to think about not your muscles retracting your shoulder blades. I want you to think the weight of your arms just sinks, right, that arm back into that shoulder socket. Try to get as much motion through those shoulder blades as you can. They slide away from each other around that rib cage, and then they slide back towards each other. And I want you to try and stay open across your collarbone through that whole range of motion. Try not to close the front of your chest. Try to keep that open. Makes it feel a little different. I'm inhaling with the reach, I'm exhaling as my arms come back. Trying to send that breath into that space I'm creating. Last one. Good, and then arms are gonna come down. I'm just gonna set my weights on top of my belly. If you don't have weights, you could grab your yoga block and set your yoga block there. We're just gonna do a little bit of neck work here. So what I want you to do is we're just gonna do a nod. So I want you to look down at your cheekbones and feel your chin tuck towards your chest and the back of your neck get longer. And then you're gonna look up underneath your eyebrows and you're gonna feel your chin lift. Often we do this on the roller, but it's just as effective on the floor. Looking down at your cheekbones. Looking up at your eyebrows, like you're going to look underneath your eyebrows. And you're just going to let your head follow that movement. So the back of our neck gets longer as we look down, and the front of our neck gets longer as we look up. And we're just going through that gentle range of motion. I don't want you to push it. And stay out of any pain. So if you have any pain, then you shorten that range of motion. And as you move through this, you might find you get a little bit more range of motion. Comfortably. Good, and then we're gonna rest our head right in the middle of that, where your chin is level and your neck is neutral, which means you got a little bit of curve in that neck, right? And we're gonna do a head lift, but I want you to realize your hair is still gonna be touching the floor. So you're just gonna lift your head with a neutral chin and a neutral neck, and you're gonna feel all those muscles in the front of your neck turn on. So I don't even think I'm a half an inch off the floor. My eyes are still looking at the ceiling, not forward. And then I'm gonna let my head rest. And again, take an inhale, you're gonna exhale. I want you to feel your core work, that your core is helping you lift your head a little bit. And then inhale as you let it rest. So we're lifting, everyone's head weighs about 12 pounds. 10, 11, 12 pounds. So it's like lifting a bowling ball, right? Those muscles have to work. Use that exhale, use that core. Don't let that belly pooch out. We're going to do one more. Inhale, exhale. Feel that belly pull in. as you just float that head barely off the floor and back down. Good, and then we're just gonna do some nice circles with your nose. And I like to use that visual cue of kind of having my eyes roam around my orbital bone. So I look to the left, look up, look to the right, look down. And then that just follows a nice circle. Like I'm drawing a nice circle on the ceiling with my nose. So my chin goes down, comes to neutral, and then it lifts up. So I'm going through that whole range of motion. And then we're gonna go in the other direction. So just switch whichever direction you started in. Just a couple more in that direction. Good, and then just back to neutral. Do a little no, no, no with your head. Just a little bit of rotation, just a gentle no, no, no. And just a couple more times, and then rest your head neutral. Make sure you're not dizzy. We're gonna change direction. We're gonna change positions. So I'm gonna come to my side, and I'm gonna use the yoga block as a pillow. And I'm gonna have my knees stacked. We're gonna do just a little external rotation. And so if you don't have a weight, this is still effective. And so your hand, you're gonna start with your elbow in by your side, and your wrist is neutral. So now my hand is right in line with my elbow. I'm not letting it drop towards the floor. And I want you to feel that shoulder blade kind of connecting into your back here before we even move that top arm. We're just gonna externally rotate. And I want this to come from your shoulder blade. So think about your shoulder blade connecting towards your spine. Head isn't moving. Shoulder stacked over shoulder, pelvis stacked over pelvis, and think about your lower rib cage not resting on the floor. Keep those lateral muscles activated. I already got a little burn going. And I just have a 1 pound weight. If you want to monitor the front of your shoulder, you can put this other hand here and make sure that you're not rounding your shoulder forward. Last one. Good. You're going to put that weight down, and we're going to come up on, we're going to do a little side lift. So I'm going to leave that yoga block there so I don't get my elbow out too far from my shoulder. So I've got that elbow right underneath my armpit. And both legs are bent right now. My feet are right about, my heels are about sit bone, aligned with my sits bones. And I'm going to lift my rib cage. That's the first motion. I'm going to bring that elbow in a little closer. So make sure that shoulder blade's down your back. Neck is long, head in line with the spine. And we're just going to lift that pelvis up and hold. And then come back down. Now, if that is hard on your shoulder or you're going into your neck, that's all I want you to do is lift your rib cage and hold that, because you're still going to activate all those lateral muscles. And lift and lower. We're going to do one more on that side. And lift and lower. Good. And now we're going to come into a quadruped position. Then we'll repeat this all on the other side. So I'm going to have you come on your knees and your hands. And what we're going to do is we're going to come into a side holding position on our hand instead of our elbow. But to get there and find good alignment, this is a great way to do it. So find your alignment in quadruped. And you're going to shift. I'm shifting my weight over to my left side. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to straighten my right leg and reach my right arm forward. And then I'm going to rotate and bring my chest towards you and my whole front body towards you. And I'm lifting that rib cage. Good. And find that hold. And then I'm going to come back and fold myself in back to that quadruped position. So the first motion is, we're going to do that one more time. We're going to shift our weight to the left. So 80%, almost all my weight is on my left hand and my left knee. And then I'm going to open my opposite arm and leg, rotate towards your screen, lifting my chest, finding all that lateral chain. And then I'm going to fold myself back into that quadruped position. Let's do one more on that side. Shifting to the left, right arm and left leg extend and reach up. And I'm lifting that bottom rib cage. I'm finding that connection on that shoulder blade. So I'm not hanging in my shoulder joint or my neck. That's not easy to find. And then back. And then we're going to repeat that all on the other side. So I'm going to switch my yoga block to the other side. I'm going to grab one hand weight if you have it. Not necessary if you don't. I'm going to start, my knees are stacked, my feet are stacked, knees are bent. We're just going to do that external rotation of that shoulder. We're working those rotator muscles. So I'm trying to keep my shoulders stacked, my pelvis stacked. I'm not moving my torso, right? You're feeling that shoulder blade draw towards your spine. And then you're slowly bringing that just back to starting point. Don't let that hand fall towards the floor. You're just back here. It's a small range of motion. Those little tiny rotator muscles behind that shoulder, that's what you should feel working. You might feel those muscles under your armpit a little bit. Good, we're just gonna do 3 more. And 2. Good, and 1. Good, and that arm's gonna rest. We're gonna come up, and I'm gonna pull that yoga block in a little further so that I don't get that elbow. You don't want that elbow out above your shoulder. You want it underneath your armpit so you can feel that connection of that shoulder blade down your back. And we're gonna do some side lifts here. My knees are bent, my feet are stacked, and I'm gonna first lift that rib cage. So I find that connection, and then I'm gonna lift and hold and lower. But I'm weaker on this side, and lift and hold. Make sure you're not rotating your shoulder girdle or your pelvic girdle. And down. And lift and hold and down. Let's do one more on this side. Shoulder away from the ear. Shoulder blade down the back and lift. Hold, good, and down. Now we're going to come to that quadruped position. So find your neutral spine best you can. I'm going to tuck my shirt in here a little bit. And so you find your neutral spine as best you can. Make sure you're not hanging into your back, right? Those ribs are connected front to back. And I'm going to shift my weight over to my right hand and right knee. And then I'm going to reach my left arm and left leg long and then open myself up. And then I'm going to close and come back to that quadruped position. Good. And then I'm going to shift my weight over to my right side first. Reach my other arm and leg long. Think about lifting that rib cage up towards the ceiling. And then coming back in. Good. We're going to do one more. I'm a little weaker on this right lateral side of my body, so it's a little harder for me. But make sure you're not shutting those ribs forward as you come in this position. They're still staying in line with your pelvis. And then you're going to close. Good. And then we're going to do a little rocking here. So I'm just going to rock back. And I only go back as far as I don't tuck my tail. I want to think about my tail feathers staying lifted so I get a nice deep hinge in the hip. And then I'm going to come forward. So I'm pushing through my hands. Not doing a lot of work with my lower body here, except for finding a nice deep hip hinge. And I'm trying to keep my spine neutral and follow a straight line back and a straight line forward. I exhale on the way back, inhale on the way forward. I like to close my eyes for this and kind of try and follow as straight of a line as I can, because my body likes to shift because I have curves in my spine. It's all those little facet joints in your spine to slide again. It should feel a little yummier the more repetitions you do. Head in line with the spine. Don't let your head hang off your body. Just going to take a peek at everybody here. This is a real restorative exercise. One more time. Good, and then we're gonna come on our bellies, ladies. And you're just gonna make a little pillow with your hands. So we're gonna come down, right? And hands are gonna be folded on the floor. My elbows are wide, and I'm gonna take my glasses off and just lay my forehead on top of my hands. And we're just gonna do a little bit of cervical activation and then a little thoracic extension. So you're going to just float your head up, but your eyes still look down at your hands, right? Your chin is still level. And you only come up as high, it's not very high, right? I still have my bottom of my ribs are still on the mat. And I'm just feeling my back of my neck and my upper thoracic spine activate. And then I'm going to lower my head back down. So my pubic bone is planted. My belly is lifting off the floor as I lift my head. And I'm trying not to push into my arms too hard. They're supporting me a little bit, but I don't want you to drive it by pushing into your arms. I want you to use those muscles, right, in the neck and your upper thoracic spine. And down, we're gonna do 2 more. And lift. My eyes are looking still at my index finger, that kind of in between where my index finger and my thumbs are. And down. Good, one more time. We're gonna float that head up. Now you're gonna stay there, and you're gonna try and lift that piece of your arms together up to your forehead and hold. Shoulder blades down your back. And then arms are gonna float down. Head is gonna float down. We're gonna do 2 more. Head lifts, not very far. Belly pulled in, pubic bone planted, arms lift. And hold, shoulders away from your ears. Feel that upper back working. And then arms come down. If you feel it in your low back, you're going too high. Or you can go back to that previous progression where we just float our head up and hold. Listen to your body. And then arms float up. Good, arms float down. Head floats down. Good, now I'm gonna have you come up on your elbows. My palms are down. And I'm gonna scoot forward here a little bit so you can see my legs. We're gonna do, this is more about a stretch of your quad and your hip flexor, and it's a hamstring glute activator. So I've got my feet about hip distance apart. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna press my pubic bone into the floor a little bit and lift my belly just a little bit. My shoulder blades are down my back. I'm pulling my elbows towards my pelvis a little bit. And then I'm gonna pull my heel towards my sit bone and feel my glute and hamstring activate and feel that hip open and my quad lengthen. And then I'm going to bring my leg back down. So I'm gonna point my toe as it comes down, and then I'm gonna flex as I go up. We're just staying on one side. My other leg is just flexed, foot is flexed. That other leg is active a little bit. So find that glute and hamstring and feel how connecting that lengthens your quad and opens your hip flexor. So this part should not pop up off the floor. Right through here should stay connected into the floor. We're going to do 2 more on that side. And I'm not pulsing. Traditional Pilates is to kick, kick, point, but I want you to find that stretch. Last one. And I feel my glute and hamstring working. So then you learn that relationship between your glute and hamstring activating and your quad and hip flexor lengthening. And you should even feel your core lifting. We're going to do the other side. So I've got both feet flexed, right? Both legs are just a little active. And then I'm going to pull that left leg towards my pelvis and then point and reach away. And you're in a little thoracic extension this whole time. I had my chin up in the air. I'm going to lower my chin a little bit. Shoulder blades down your back. Working a range of motion that if you have knee issues, you don't have to pull that heel as close. Just finding that little activation. It's like your glute and hamstring are pulling your heel towards your bum, towards your glutes. And I like to point my foot as it goes down and flex it as it goes up. 2 more. Flex and point. Good, last one. Flex and point. And then you're going to push yourself up and we're going to come into a child's pose. So this is, I do want you to think about tucking your tail. And so I want you to think not so much about rounding your upper back. I want you to think about tucking your tail. And then as you go back, think about tucking your tail more. So this is about stretching your low back out, not hanging into it. So my belly's lifted off my legs. I'm breathing into my back body here. And then I'm going to exhale. I'm going to keep tucking that tail. As I exhale, I'm able to reach my arms a little more forward and create a little more space. One more inhale. Into that back body, right? It opens it up and stretches everything. And exhale. Do 1 more breath there. Nice deep inhale. And exhale. Good. So we're going to end with 1 stretch on the chair. I've kept you guys just a few extra minutes. So you can come up from the mat. And we're just going to do a seated psoas stretch here. So I'm going to sit. And I'm towards the front edge of the chair that's facing you. And I'm towards the edge of the chair that's facing this way. I've got my other hand on the chair, slightly in front of my shoulder. And this foot is flexed and I'm kind of pushing it back so I get to open that hip and that quad, and I'm going to just reach up. And it's more about, I don't want you to come over so much. I want you to think about reaching up and then pushing this other leg into the floor a little bit. So I'm rolling through my toes to the ball of my foot and I'm finding that nice lateral stretch. And then I'm going to bring that arm down, let that leg come in. And then I'm going to inhale into that stretch. Exhale out of that stretch. 1 more time. Inhale into that stretch. Exhale out of that stretch. And then we're going to do that on the other side. So find your alignment of your pelvis first. Right? Don't let this side just hang down to the floor. Right? You got to be a little active there. Do that free leg. And I'm going to reach up. And then release the leg, release the arm. Activate the leg, push back, open the front of that hip. Don't arch your low back though. And think about length. Inhaling here, exhale as you go back. 1 more time. Good, and then that finishes our class for today, ladies. I'm going to shut my recording off here.